this meeting to order, and we'll open with the consent agenda minutes from the July 18th Special Joint Council and Planning Board. So if somebody wants to make a motion to approve those.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 18th Special Joint Council and Planning Board meeting.
I'll second.
And motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's it for that bookkeeping stuff. Center Care Health is here on 2 items, a lot split and a variance. So who wants to discuss either one? Start.
Do you want us to give you a little
Tell us.
overview?
Yeah, tell us a little story, so we know where we're in.
Okay, I'm Brandon Peach. I'm administrator at Center Care Paynesville, and Dave Larson is with me. He's head of all the facilities and support services for the health system. And basically, we have 2 requests that parallel each other for your consideration today. We're in the process of continuing the divestiture of senior services that started about 2 years ago with the transition of our nursing home, and then earlier this year the transition of the assisted living building, Washburn Court, to Premier Healthcare Management. The remaining senior property that we have is our Stearns Place Apartments, which is attached to the hospital campus. And what we are looking to do is to do a lot split on the hospital property, and then close with a sale with Premier Healthcare Management for the 2-story part of the Stearns facility. We recognize it's a little bit of an unconventional request, but as we've gone through our review process with Center Care Legal and with Premier's Legal, it's really the most viable option that we've been able to come up with for ensuring that Stearns Place will continue to be a viable senior housing project for many years to come within the Paynesville community. So that's kind of a general overview of what we're doing. The specific request is to break off a little over an acre of our hospital property and sell that to Premier. And then the variance application that goes with it is tied in because of facility being physically joined and then also joined to the hospital. And so there's about 32 feet of wall space that does not meet the setback requirement for the lot split. And then the side setback and the rear setback, the side setback of 10 feet on each side is the northeast corner of the building. And then on the east side, if you're familiar with the building at all, where our deliveries come in on the south side and on the east side of the building, there's a 20-foot setback that would be required on both the Stearns property and then the remaining part of the building that's part of the campus. So the request would be for that 32.14 feet interior to the building, and then the diagonal lines for until we get out to those required setbacks. So that's basically an overview of the 2 requests.
Anybody have any questions? I was wondering how that's all going to work.
So, right now, it's been a long time since I've been there. So you can traverse from Stearns Place to the hospital?
Yes.
Will that remain in place?
Yes.
Okay.
The split is actually, if you looked at the building, you'd say there's the Stearns building. There's a single-story part of the building where our kitchen and our cafeteria tie into the hospital. And then it also connects to the nursing home on the backside. And then there's a 2-story structure where the rental units are at, and the common spaces, the dining room, administration office, those kinds of things. So if you were to look at the building from the outside, the separation is basically the single-story building and the two-story building.
Sure. Are all the utilities for the portion that will be separated at 700s, is that all within 700s then?
My understanding is that, I'm not sure about electric, but the water, I think the city's been out there and they've marked that. That would fall on the Centricare side of the building.
Okay. How about fire suppression and the panel and all that?
There is the ability to do separate. Right now, it's tied into the hospital system, and we feel like it's important for us to continue to monitor that just because of the attachment to the hospital building. But there is a separate panel, and it could be separated if that were, important for that to happen. I don't know if you have any insights on that.
No, typically when we're connected to facilities that we don't own or operate or specifically operate, when they're physically connected, if they have their own panel, we simply ask to be added onto the notification or when the alarm goes so that even our staff and folks can respond. Just from a life safety standpoint, whatever the safest option is for any occupant in any of our facilities is the route we go. Contractually, we work out as clean a way to do that as possible, but the reality is typically our folks show up first because they're in the building, in the campus.
Right.
So.
See, I'm not trying to play out here running business. I don't know how. It just seems odd that you would have control of utilities from a different property.
And sometimes over the years, we try to clean those up, sort of eventually, where it would make sense, and if there's an obvious time to upgrade, let's say the electrical service needs upgrading, well, that's the time to look at it saying, no, we're going to run that completely now, that's separate from the utility to just that building.
I don't know, but from something that Ron Mergen had sent out, I had the impression that there was a water line that went into the part that you're proposing to split off, but that it crosses some of the land, that there would need to be an easement across some of Centricare's property in order for them to be able to give the city access to that water line.
So on the diagrams that were sent out, where the water lines have been marked, the place that it would cross under the area that Fortitude is purchasing would be under that west parking lot on the front side of Stearns Avenue. There's a jog that includes the parking lot in the purchase, and then it goes back towards the building, and it's 10-some feet from the building is where that east-west line on the north side of the building goes. The water main, as it's been marked by Ron's crew, actually would be on the Centricare property. It would run under that tail on the west parking lot for Premier, and so that's kind of how it lines up in the layout.
But yes, Brandon and I talked this morning about if that's the case, an easement can be, recorded and documented as part of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Ron just sent me a drawing, and it seemed like it was partially on property that was gonna remain with Centricare. And
It is, that's correct. Actually, the majority of the line is on Centricare, would stay on Centricare property. I would estimate it's probably 30 to 40 feet north of the buildings where that line runs. That's just a guess, based on where it's marked.
Anything else? Anybody have questions, comments, anything? Well, we have to do this report and recommendation of the planning board on the lot split first. And I guess I have to read it. Do I have to read the parcel numbers and everything too? The description, northeast corner, et cetera, et cetera. And just say, as printed.
I do.
As printed?
I think that's fine.
I think it'd be fun to just listen to you try.
I'm on the rock jeans, so drag it out.
Whereas a lot split application was referred to the planning board by the city administrator in accordance with chapter 30 of the city code of the city of Painesville to allow the planning board to consider any possible adverse effects of the proposed lot split and to make a report and recommendation to the city council. And whereas the application for a lot split was submitted by Center Care Health Painesville LLC seeking to split block 7 and 8 Residence Park addition into 2 parcels, which are described as follows. Parcel 1 and parcel 2 as printed on the page. It's long. Whereas the planning board has had an opportunity to review this lot split application received by the city of Painesville August 8th, 2022 at its meeting on August 15th, 2022, and the planning board has considered the standards for lot splitting applications set forth in City Code Chapter 30, Section 30 through 190, makes the following report. The lot split will or will not result in the existence of a non-buildable or non-conforming lot within the zoning classification where it is located. We need a vote of will not. All those in favor of will not? Josh, Randy? Josh? Yeah. Okay. There is or is not a demonstrated need for splitting the lot.
Yes.
Josh?
Is.
Yep. A demonstrated need, okay, the proposed use is or is not in compliance with the comprehensive plan adopted by the city. It is. You agree? Okay. And the last one, therefore, the planning board recommends that the proposed lot split be granted. Or granted according to, okay, or denied. And, okay, that one's done. One down. Report and recommendation of the planning board on application for variance. Whereas the city administrator has received from Center Care Health Painesville LLC a variance application, which was submitted in conjunction with a proposed lot split. The variance application was made because the lot split, if approved, would result in a non-conforming lot within the C2 Highway Commercial District in which the property is located, therefore requiring a variance from the strict requirements of City Code 36, Section 36 through 47. Which establishes lot, yard, and area setback requirements. The proposed lot split would create 2 areas of the structure on the new lot to be created, which would require a variance. One section is 32.14 feet in length, and there would be a 0-foot setback where the 2 buildings are connected. That's obvious. That connected area would remain in place so that there would be a 0-foot setback between the structures. Immediately to the east of that area where there is a 0-foot setback, there would be a section of the lot line running along the southerly edge of the building, 31.93 feet in length, which would start to the north as a 0-foot setback and proceed at an angle for 31.93 feet to a point where the required rear setback of 20 feet would then be met and continue on that angle to a point 20.40 feet from the structure and then proceed southerly. And whereas Center Care Health Painesville is the owner of the parcel property in question, which is located at 200 West 1st Street, Painesville, Minnesota, and whereas the property is currently part of tax parcel 7039331.0010, and the parcel proposed to be created would require the variance as legally described as follows. and it's printed accordingly. Whereas the lot in question is depicted in Exhibit A, attached hereto, and on the enlargement of Exhibit A attached hereto as Exhibit B. And whereas the planning board believes that the strict enforcement of the zoning ordinance in this instance would impose an undue hardship or not impose a hardship. Would impose an undue hardship. Undue hardship. Correct?
Not right.
Okay. No, it wouldn't. No, it would. It would impose hardship if you didn't.
Non-family.
Yeah. A.
It would be.
Yep. That's what I said.
My brain was thinking B, not read. A.
It's too much reading. Whereas the planning board concludes that the owner's use of the property as proposed would be unreasonable or reasonable. B, reasonable. Correct, everybody? Agree? Whereas the planning board believes the landowner's need for the variance is due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. Well, the previous landowners. Not due to circumstances which are, it would be A. Whereas the planning board finds that the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality or will alter the essential character. A. And whereas the planning board finds that the variance, if granted, will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive plan, or will not be in harmony. A. Therefore, the planning board recommends that the request for variance be granted with conditions or denied. A. Are we all in agreement?
Yep.
Okay. So these go on to city council for approval. Are they on next Monday? Are they on the agenda next
I
Monday?
think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I kind of figured. And that's all for business.
I think the council actually maybe just sets a hearing at the next meeting. I don't think they're on for a decision. I'm not sure. But I believe
I'm not
it's-
sure either.
It just sets a public hearing, I believe.
I think we have to set a public hearing. Yeah. I was thinking we had to do that here, but that's not today. The council will do that. Set the hearing will be later in September, it's supposed to be end of September. Okay, that's all we need from you guys tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you. Do we have any old business? Not that I'm aware of anybody. Art, anything?
Maybe once
Okay.
it all shakes out, we should probably have a fire department.
Our builder inspector report.
Yeah, because it's going to be.
Do we have anything we need to look at or talk about or?
Yep, that'd be great.
Let's go back to any update.
Is there an update for the report, the building inspector report?
No, what you've got there is pretty much. There are a couple from 2019 I'm still trying to work on.
I was gonna say.
I hate to bug people too much when they're doing the work themselves and they do their jobs.
Well, one of these happens to be somebody we could bug.
We do bug them,
Yeah.
but
He knows better.
he does.
I saw that Nate Rindle got their siding done finally on their house.
Yeah, they're working on moving on to the shed, I imagine.
Yeah. Drove by the other day and thought, oh, finally. I gave him a hard time at church. Okay, if there's nothing else, our next meeting is Monday, September 19th. And that's it for today. We are adjourned.